Today let's discuss money and credit economics class 10 lesson. Some previous year questions and answers. First question, examine any three situations in which credit helps in the development of agriculturist. The credit helps in the development of agriculturists by meeting their input requirements, fixed capital requirements, and financing their irrigation requirements. The agricultural sector requires farmers to invest heavily in inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation systems, tractors, etc. Next question. How does money solve the problem of double coincidence of wants? Explain with an example of your own. Money solves the problem of double coincidence of wants by acting as a medium of exchange. Double coincidence of wants implies a situation where two parties agree to sell and buy each other's commodities. What one party desires to sell is exactly what the other party wishes to buy. Money does away with this tedious and complex situation by acting as a medium of exchange that can be used for one and all communities. For example, if an ice cream vendor wants a bicycle, but the bicycle manufacturer wants clothes and not ice creams, then the vendor can use money to obtain a bicycle. He does need to adhere to the bicycle man's needs because money acts as the common medium of exchange. Similarly, the bicycle manufacturer can then use the money to buy clothes. Next, in what ways does the Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of banks? Why is it necessary? Or explain the significance of the Reserve Bank of India in the Indian economy. The RBI prints currency note except 1 rupee note and its subsidiary coins in India. The RBI operates as a banker to the banks. The RBI oversees the operations of other banks in India. The RBI provides loans to other banks in India for certain reasons such as client lending. It serves as a final resort for all banks in financial difficulties. The RBI serves as a banker to the government. The Reserve Bank of India serves as the banker to the Union of India's national and state governments. The RBI controls the economy's credit and money supply. It raises interest rates to reduce the amount of loans and lowers interest rates to boost the volume of loans. Explain the role of self-help groups in the rural society. About self-help groups, SHGs. Self-help groups consist of certain members who pool their savings and constitute a fund which is further used in making finance and advances to other members. A typical self-help group has 15 to 20 members. The members pool their savings and after some time it becomes a large amount which is used to give loans to the needy ones at a very nominal rate of interest. This helps to reduce the functioning of informal sectors of credit. They help borrowers overcome the problem of lack of collateral. They can get timely loans for a variety of purposes and at a reasonable interest rate. They are building blocks of the organization of the rural poor. It helps women to become self-reliant. The regular meeting of the group provide a platform to discuss and act on various social issues. What is a collateral? Why is it a main reason to prevent the poor getting a loan from banks? Collateral is an asset that the borrower holds such as land, a building, a vehicle, livestock or bank savings that the borrower uses as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is returned. If the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender has the authority to sell the asset or collateral to recover payment. Collateral is a main reason to prevent someone with a poor financial history from getting a loan from a bank because it mitigates the lender's risk. When a borrower has a poor credit history or low income, they are considered a higher risk for loan default. Getting loan from a bank is much more difficult than taking from informal sources. Bank loans require proper documents and collateral which poor people find difficult to produce. As the poor cannot provide collateral, they can't take loans from banks. How does credit play positive and negative role? Explain with example. Here we can see credit plays both a positive and a negative role in the following ways. A large number of transactions in our day-to-day activities involve credit in some form or the other. Credit refers to an agreement in which the lender supplies the borrower with money, goods or services in return for the promise of future payment. So here we can see the story of that is there in your textbook. Story of Salim. Salim's story is a positive case. Credit helped him a lot to recover from his loans. So another case we can see Swapna's case. What happened to Swapna? She was a small farmer. She was unable to repay the loan and debt grows over the years into a large amount. So, credit instead of helping Swapna improve her earning left her worse off. So, this is an example of debt trap. Credit played a negative role in Swapna's case. Next question, a farmer has borrowed money from a money lender at a high rate of interest. As he could not pay the interest, he was forced to borrow from another landlord to settle the amount. Here what I told, that is debt trap. So for the interest borrowed to the money lender, what are the consequences? So this farmer has fallen into debt trap. He is in a situation where he will not be able to repay the debt incurred because the informal sector was the source of credit opted by this farmer. Where the rate of interest is high, no proper documentation is sought, no set of rules and regulations will be followed. So you can write these points about informal sector loans. The lenders were often punished and will be ill-treated. The prime motive of the informal sources of this kind of credit is to make a profit. This farmer may face the following consequences. What are the consequences farmer may face if he fall into the debt trap? So he will not be able to make a regular interest payment. Then he will buy loans from another money lender. So he may experience personal consequences like mental stress, anxiety, depression, etc. Now differentiate between formal sector credit and informal sector credit. So already we saw some points in formal sector loans. So this difference between formal and informal sector loans or credit is that formal sources are registered with the government, informal sources are not registered. Then formal sector credit provided by banks and cooperatives, then mainly Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning proper terms of credit like collateral documentation, rate of interest, all that is required. They provide cheap and affordable credit. They charge us less interest. Then informal sector credit provided by traders, money lenders, employees, etc. No government or private organization. Terms of credit are flexible for the personal benefit of the lenders and pitiable conditions of borrowers. Rate of interest is higher. What are the main reasons for the formal credit not to be available to the rural poor? Why formal credit is not to be not to be available to the poor. Why there is a need to expand rural credit? So what are the main reason? Absence of collateral and documentation is the main reason which prevents rural poor from getting bank loans. Then arrangement of informal sector loans are flexible in terms of timeliness, procedural requirements, interest rates, etc. So there is a need to expand rural credit because informal sectors exploit rural poor by putting them in debt trap. Cheap and affordable credit for rural poor is important for the country's overall development. What are the reasons that the banks might not be willing to lend it to certain borrowers? That is, what are the reasons that the banks might not be willing to lend loans to certain borrowers? The banks might not be willing to lend certain borrowers due to the following reason. Why banks are not giving loans to certain borrowers? Banks require proper documents and collateral. The borrowers who have not repaid previous loan, banks might not be willing to lend them. Banks might not be willing to lend those entrepreneurs who are going to invest in the business with high risk. So one of the principal objective of the bank is to earn more profit after meeting a number of expenses. For this purpose, it has to adopt judicious lending and investment policies which ensure fair and stable return on the funds. Analyze the role of credit in economic development. What is the role of credit in economic development? We can start with the credit. What is the meaning of the credit? So the credit is in great demand for various. What are the need for giving credit to the poor people? So economic activities used for economic activities, big or small in investment to set a business, then buying cars, etc. In rural areas, credits help in the development of agriculture by providing funds to farmers to buy seeds, fertilizers, expensive pesticides. So this type of credit is needed for the development of the country. Through the credit, we can increase production and services, more employment and profit. Then caution is required by the lenders when high risks are expected so that there are no losses. Credit from the formal sector needs to be increased as loans from the informal sector which have high interest rates do more harm than good. For this reason, it is important that the formal sector gives out more loans so that borrowers are not exploited by informal money lenders. So definitely it will contribute to the development of the nation. Then how do banks play an important role in developing the economy of India? Banks play an important role in the developing the economy of India. Banks keep money of the people in safe custody to be used by the depositors in future. They provide excellent saving and investment options to the depositors and thereby help the nation. Banks also increase the saving of the depositors by paying interest. They mediate between people who have surplus and those who need money. This is done through granting loans. People avail themselves of these loan facilities to increase production and income. Banks, being the formal source of credit, give loans at a very low rate of interest. Banks give loans not just to profit-making businesses and traders but also to small cultivators, small-scale industries, etc. Explain the main reasons to prevent the poor from getting a loan from a bank. Why some poor people are not getting loans from the bank? The main reasons to prevent the poor from getting a loan from the banks are not present everywhere. Hence, poor people are forced to take a loan from informal sources. Even when banks are present, getting a loan from the bank is much more difficult than taking from informal sources. Bank loans will require proper documents and collateral. So money lenders no need of this collateral and documents. If need to be required, then borrowers can approach the money lender even without repaying their earlier loans. But banks never give loans without the repayment of previous loan. Explain the procedure involved in the issuing of a check. For making payments through a check, the payer, who is an account holder with the bank, issues a check from his checkbook for a specific amount. The check instructs the bank to pay a specific amount from the depositor's account to the person or institution in whose name it has been issued. The money is then transferred from one bank account to another bank account in a day or two, and the transaction is complete without any payment of cash.